Hello and welcome. My name is Steven Sim, and tonight we are looking at secondary English, writing A-star English essays, part one, reflective, recount, descriptive, and simple expository. And next week we have part two where I deal with different types of expository writing as well as argumentative essays. Okay, so uh, grab hold of your handouts. Those of you who have signed up, you should be able to download the handouts. And I know that some of you are watching this after your WA because we are right in the WA season round now, right? So some of you might have signed up and then you're only watching this after the WA. So that's also fine. That's an alternative way of dealing with uh, the congestions caused by time, right? You can shift things around. Okay, so essay writing, reflective recount, descriptive and expository, compare and contrast. Just compare and contrast for the expository today. Next week, we look at the others. Okay, so these are some of the things which we are dealing with tonight. But perhaps one of the things that you can do is that you can type into the chat. Okay, type into the chat, what are some of the things that you struggle with? Let us know what are not the Q&A, the chat. What is it that you struggle with when it comes to essay writing? And teacher Mavis is also here with me. And so both of us will do our best to help you, provide you some guidance. Okay. One person says, starting the essay. Okay, we can deal with that. Everything. Okay, and then you spelled literally wrongly. Okay, so it starts with spelling and because a lot of times I have students who can speak well, when I talk to them, they are very energetic and they're happy. The problem is that if you don't see the word, then you don't know how to spell it. So sometimes, that old saying about read more is actually true because you need to see how the word is spelled. You need to see how the word is used in a proper sentence. Because one of the things I can tell you is that spoken language is very different from the written version. So you might be very good at talking, you're very persuasive, you're a leader in the school, you're a prefect, you're a school counselor, you can get things done, but somehow you're struggling with your essay because writing things down requires a different kind of thought process. Okay. High language marks. Okay. So, like I said, so vocab, grammar, the ending. Okay. So, what else? No, this is not primary six. This is a secondary school English essay writing webinar. Okay. Uh, make my writing better and have better grammar. Okay, so those are the things which you need to work on. Okay, so we'll deal with some of those things, reflective writing. Okay, so let's look at the reflective recount, otherwise known as the personal recount. There are different kinds of names. You don't actually need to worry about the names. Only the teachers worry about the names. You understand? For you, all you do is you read the question and then you answer the question. That's all that you have to do. You don't worry about the question type. Okay, question types for teachers like me and for teacher maybe is when we prepare the materials and then we want to make sure that we give you a variety of essay types. We expose you to different essay types and we teach you the skills for all the different types. That's why we have the labels. But otherwise, as a student, you don't actually care about the labels. You just answer the question. Okay, so for this personal recount question, one of the things that you need to do is to look at the question, and then what you do is that you're supposed to write something, right? So for example, let's say the question is something like write about a time when you felt anger. Okay, so for example, write about a time when you lost your temper. Okay, then they'll say, what caused it and what was the outcome? What caused it and what did you learn? So if you were to summarize this reflective recount, then actually there are two parts. There are two parts of it. Whatever happened to you, whether it's a time when you became angry or whether it's a time when you were disappointed, correct? Or whether it's a time when you overcame obstacles, whether it's a time when you were overjoyed, or whether it doesn't matter what that is. Okay, so that is actually the first part of what you write. That's the first part of what you write. And then there's the second part. And I tell you, this second part is the part which is ignored. So most students don't actually write enough for this section because the first section is where you're just saying, this is what happened. I was seated there and then my friends jeered at me, or my friends encouraged me, or my friends made me worried, or whatever it is, you're just telling the story. And so this is something which you're familiar with, which is why the personal recount question is easy. It's the easiest of all the essay questions that you have to write. And remember that for the O levels, you're given a choice, right? And all the questions are worth equal marks. It is not true that if you attempt the more difficult question, argumentative essay, you will score higher. It is not true. It is not true. Do you understand? So if I were you, I would write this and I would score. Okay. Uh, so this particular type of essay, you have lots of experience in doing this because you have been doing this in primary school, where with kindness, honesty, whatever, and then they give you pictures and then you just describe that situation. You have already many examples and many models inside your head having to do with this particular type of writing. But for the secondary school, you need to add this section. This is the missing section. This is the section. You look at his words here. This is fine. This is the section which reflects upon or evaluates or gives meaning to everything else that happened. You want to be able to take a moment, jump out of time, and say, when I look at that situation, this is what I learned from it. So this is the section which is very important. This is the section which you don't have much practice at doing. Because part one, you've had lots of practice at doing it in primary school. Part two is the part which you need to have the sentence structures. You need to know how to do it. So it is not enough to have one line at the end to say, this lesson will forever be etched in my memory. No, not enough. You understand? Or I learned that honesty is the best policy. And this will forever be etched in my memory. Not enough. Not enough. You need to be able to develop this idea. So thinking about what happened. So jumping out of time. Why isn't Mr. Puppy getting burned? Because he's not actually there. He is recreating that situation after he has told the story about it. And then he's saying, this was a terrible situation, but these are the things that I learned. And this is how I have developed. This is how I've grown. This is how I've become a better person, even though I was stuck in this horrible situation. And so this part is very important, this second section. So don't just describe the story, have another section where you say, this is fine, or where you say, this was terrible, or you say, This was wonderful, but you need to have that section. You must have that section. Why is it that you don't need to do that for the primary school? That's because when you're 11 years old and when you're 12 years old, we have no expectations whatsoever that you're able to evaluate or reflect because you're in primary school. And in primary school, you're just a child. So no expectations for some of you can, but there are no expectations for reflection or evaluation or metacognition, thinking about your thinking. But at secondary school level, you find that the way that you think has changed, right? If you observe yourself now, and then you think about what you were like in primary six, you have noticed that you have new abilities, new thinking abilities. And this is the one which we want to develop. And so writing the essay, writing the personal recount essay with this second component is a way of helping your mind to develop the ability to reflect, to learn from your experiences. So your school sends you for a 3-day level camp at Pulau Ubin. Okay, so what did you learn? Okay, that is the section which you need to fill in. And you have lots of opportunities to do that, but sometimes students don't do that because I'm sure the school gives you a reflection booklet, right? They say, okay, at the end of every night, fill in the reflection booklet. What do you learn from this? What do you learn from that, right? And then you say must hand in to the teacher, but you know that you hand in to the teacher also doesn't mark, just go tick, 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 return to you, that's all, isn't it? So those are the opportunities given to you to reflect on your struggles, your successes with kayaking, with jumping off from the pier, with setting up a tent, dealing with mosquitoes, okay, moving out of your comfort zone. So those are the opportunities which you write. And so when you bring your personal experiences, your thoughts, those things which were real to you, and you write about them, you develop, and that essay becomes a very good essay. And so, what you must not do is that you must not take the model essay from primary school and then you just dump it in. So, that is the fatal error. And you just say, oh, I don't think that there's a fit, but anyway, I'll just dump it in because that's what I've been writing. You write the same essay in primary 4, primary 5, and primary 6, right? You know what I'm talking about? The one where you were in the exam hall, then you notice your classmates cheating, and then there was a devil on your right shoulder, the angel on your left shoulder, and then what should you do? So you put up your hand, and then you, etc., etc. So those things helped you to get past the PSLE because PSLE is actually very simple. It's very simple, very low level, right? If you look back at it last year, for those of you who are in Sec 1, you look at it and you say, whoa, I thought it was the biggest deal, the most difficult exam in the world. But now that I'm in Sec 1, PSLE is chicken feed, isn't it? And for those of you who are in Sec 4, I don't need to expound on this any further. So you need to change. Okay, so that's one thing. And I tell you this, but your ability to do it is a different thing. Your ability to change, your ability to control your writing. This is something which I cannot do for you. This is something which you need to do. And I know that you struggle with this because I last week we had essay writing, and then there was this girl in my class, and then I told her at the beginning, I said, don't spend too much time writing the story. Just compress the story and leave 2 or 3 paragraphs for reflection. And so all my entire class went yes, yes, yes. And then they're writing, and then I'm observing, and then 10 minutes left out of 50 minutes, and she's still telling the story. So she had to stay back after the class, and you won't get that opportunity during an actual exam. But this was a class with my stretcher. So, okay. So she stayed back after the class and then spend an extra 10 minutes writing the reflection. I said, okay, at least I can see that you put in effort. right? But you need to be able to control, because this is something which many students struggle with. Once they start writing the story, right, it's as if the story takes over and then they lose control of the story. It's like, I'm at this stage, I must automatically write the next stage, and then I must automatically write the next stage. Even at the very beginning, I told her, you do not need to start with a flashback. But she started with a flashback. I said, why? Why do you need to have a flashback? The personal recount, the entire thing is a flashback. It's a personal recount. The entire thing is a flashback. You do not need to have this awkward thing. I was looking at the trophies. I was cleaning my trophies. This brought me back to the time when dot dot dot. Don't do that. Don't do that. You understand? You need to be able to control your writing. Don't let the writing control you. Okay? So this is the most important thing, because all the other things, they are just techniques and techniques and techniques. But if you don't have the control, you can't apply the technique. So remember that, okay, control your writing. Be in control of your writing. Be in control of the time. Be in control of what you do with the time and for each paragraph. For this set of notes that we have prepared for you, because there are students from Sec 1 all the way to Sec 4 here, what you do is that for Sec 1 to Sec 2, you will aim for clarity in your writing. You will aim to do the basic things well. Okay, so simple basics are the most advanced. For the Sec 3 to Sec 4 students, if you want to score the top band, you will need to have some subtlety and nuance in your writing. Okay, so make use of the notes in this way. So one of the things that you mustn't do is that you mustn't have multiple complications. So for the PSLE is this happened and then this happened and this happened and then this happened. Wow! But actually, that is not important. The PSLE examiner doesn't care about your story being very exciting. They're just looking at your ability to write in English. That's all. You understand? So that thing which we tell the PSLE students, oh, if you use these words, your story will be very exciting and then you get higher marks. That is suitable for telling primary school students. We're not lying to them, but it's appropriate. It's age appropriate advice. Age appropriate advice. But now you're no longer 11 and you're no longer 12 years old. And so your writing is no longer about piling up complications. It's not about, oh, I saw my friend cheating and then I wanted to, just as I was about to raise my hand to inform the invigilator, John turned around and we established eye contact. And that look on his face told me that he was pleading with me silently. And so now my heart beat like an African drum gone wild. And then I decided, oh no, should I flip flop again? Should I change my mind? I was torn between the devil and the deep blue sea, between Skyline and Charybdis. And then the invigilator came around and then, no need, no need, no need, no need, no need. Primary school, okay. Secondary school, just compress it because nobody cares about your story. In fact, even you don't care about your story. And this is a terrible thing that I say. But when I ask, when I don't ask, I just look at my students, right? After they write the essay, they just hand up. You don't even read your own essay before you hand up to me for marking, which means you don't care about your story. You don't care about your story. Why should I care about your story? Do you understand? So think about essay writing as a way of demonstrating your ability to express your thoughts in English, your ability to control different types of writing. So the storytelling part is when you have 3 paragraphs or 4 paragraphs and they are organized according to time. In your secondary personal recount, this section, which is organized according to time, must be shortened. And then after that, you jump out of it. And then you go, this is fine or not fine, up to you. But that's another 2 or 3 paragraphs. So it varies. Do you understand? I sometimes tell students you must do 3 paragraphs, because if I don't say you must do 3 paragraphs of reflection, they will say, how many paragraphs must I do? I say, you can do 3 paragraphs or 2 paragraphs. Then they say, so should I do 2 or 3 paragraphs? And then I say, it's up to you. Then they say, but I need that kind of guidance. Okay, give me 3 paragraphs. And then when they try to do it, they can't. They just come up with 2 paragraphs. I say, very good. I gave you a 3 paragraph target. You gave me 2 paragraph reflection. Fantastic. Do you know why I say that? Because if I say, give me 2 paragraphs, they end up with the conclusion and one line. So again, what the teachers say and what you end up doing might not be the same thing. So you need to look at our intentions and then what is the outcome which you produce, because the outcome which you produce, that written version, that's the one which you get marks for. Okay. So don't write too much. Don't write too much for the story. Okay, you need to compress the story, compress it. So you don't have time to have this long-winded beginning. You don't have time for dialogue which goes, oh, how are you feeling, Mary? Oh, dot dot dot. And then, oh, I'm not feeling well, dot dot dot. Why are you not feeling well, dot dot dot? Oh, I don't really want to say, oh, come on, you can trust me, dot dot dot. I've seen girls who love to write like that. Okay, I'm not biased against girls, but I think that what's happened is that these are girls who like to read, and when they read the books, right, these novels, chick lit, you have lots and lots of dialogue which is like that. For it runs for 2 or 3 pages at a time, and then they attempt to replicate that style of writing in the essay. You can't do that. So what you see, and this is one of the problems with reading too much. What you see in your novels cannot be transferred or copied 100% for your essay, because your essay is not a novel. Your essay is a genre in itself. It is a particular type of writing in itself, and it's not a novel. So you cannot have long-winded conversations. Okay, so that's one type of reason, because you're so used to that kind of writing, and then you try to import it, and then you end up with like 5 pages. As students, 5 pages, and they think that they are doing very well, but it's not, because it's rambling and it's not getting to the point. So the other reason which students have when they use lots of dialogue, it's because it fills up space. So you want to fill up the space, otherwise you're afraid that you don't have enough vocabulary and you don't know what to write. So, but your O-level examiners will look at it and they can see through it. It's at primary school, it's acceptable, it's fine, because the PSLE is very forgiving, because we are only expecting a primary school level of attainment. Do you understand? So some of these techniques which you use to try to, fluff up your composition, it worked at the primary school level. It no longer works at the secondary school level. You can't do that. You will look at it and just say, oh, you're just wasting time. And worse still, you're losing marks because you haven't got your punctuation for your dialogue correct. So, um, so when it comes to the basics, you must master it. Okay, so punctuation for dialogue, you must master them. And then you need to compress. So what you do is you write the impactful dialogue. I'm not saying you cannot have dialogue. You can, but you just need to have the the words which have the greatest impact. So for example, you might just say, uh, Susan said softly. Ah, see. So this is like that, and then that's all. And then after that, you can go into reporter speech as I responded by breaking into tears, etc. As I confided in her, and then that's all. And after you go into your reflection, you don't need to have a very long and convoluted dialogue. Okay, so reflection, 3 paragraphs or 2 paragraphs, up to you. There's some flexibility, but make sure you have that. A time when I felt regret. Okay, so define the theme. So one of the techniques, some of you say, I don't know how to begin. I don't know how to begin. One of the easiest way to begin is to use a definition. And some of you are frightened now because you say, but I don't know the definition of the word. You don't need to give the dictionary definition because the dictionary definition is boring. What the examiner wants to see is what you have discovered about honesty, kindness, regret, failure, success, joy, forgiveness. So it's your personal learning, which is what you should be putting down there on paper. And so that's very easy because that's whatever you want it to be, or whatever you have discovered it to be, whatever is true for you. That's what you spend 1 paragraph writing. You see, so you write about what you know about honesty or kindness or regret or whatever it is, or cruelty or sharing or compassion, and all your school values. So you write that down. You understand? And that's 1 paragraph. That's it. So no flashbacks, no cleaning of trophies, and waking up to smell your mother's delicious waffles or things like that. Okay, so just introduce the key term. Regret is blah blah blah, and then you describe it. Okay, and then you have a very short summary to tell us, okay, so what is this story going to be about? So that's the overview. But I tell you, one of the reasons why students can't do this, one of the reasons why students can't do this is because they don't know what the story is. Because this is an overview. And you can only provide an overview if you already know what the story is. So if you don't know what the story is, you can't provide a summary of the story. Correct? So if you don't know what's going to happen in paragraph 3 or 4 or 5, how can I write the introduction? I can't even start the first paragraph because I don't know what's happening in paragraph 2, 3, or 4. And then you're stuck there, really stuck, can't get started. So the solution is, and this is what some students do, they write rubbish. And it's a good solution. They write rubbish and they'll just say, oh, my mother's delicious waffles, blah, 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 blah. And then suddenly, halfway while writing, something clicks and then they go, I know what I really want to write about now. Okay, then they write the real introduction, which is the second paragraph. This is fine. Then what you do, since you use your first paragraph really as warm up, and your second paragraph is the real intro, what you must do, you must really do this, okay? You must really do this, okay? You must delete this paragraph. Just use your ruler and draw one line neatly through diagonally, okay? And if you're really angry, then you do 2, okay? But you don't need just one diagonal line is enough, okay? And then you find that, hey, if you just start reading from here, this is perfectly fine. So this is a valid method of warming up because many students have this problem and you find that you can really only generate the ideas after you've written something. So the key thing that you must do is you must delete this. Don't just leave it there and say, wow, I've already written one paragraph. I just leave it there because I'll get more marks. It's not true. That first paragraph, which is rambling, which is going all over the place. What is regret? Some people say that regret means feeling regretful. I regret that I don't really know what regret is, but in this essay, we will try to examine this idea of regretfulness. Get rid of it. Get rid of that horrible first paragraph, okay? Promise me that you'll do that. Yeah. So that is one way of doing it. Okay, so for the students who can't get started until they write, okay, do that. But then some of you say, oh, but Mr. Sim is very ugly. I don't like it. Okay, then it's fine. Then what you do after writing that warm-up paragraph, and then you have your real paragraphs here, right? Then don't start that thing. What you do is that you get rid of that piece of paper and then you start on a new piece of paper. On a new piece of paper, you start with the real intro, which is also fine. So don't panic and say that, oh, but the teacher only gave me 2 pieces of paper. I give you a secret. Whenever the teacher goes around asking me for giving my classmates in the past, right, they give 2 pieces of paper to each student. Once they reach me, I will say, can I please have an extra piece of paper at the very beginning? Can I have 2 extra pieces of paper? Just give, a teacher will just give. They won't scold you. You know why? Because the invigilators actually don't like to walk here and there to give you extra pieces of paper. They would rather just sit down there and daydream or stand down there and daydream. So if you ask for extra pieces of paper, very good. Nah, yeah. Okay, leave me alone. Then their eyes are wide open and they are daydreaming. All these secrets, Teacher Mavis. So now you know. So be
Daydream when I
brave and
invigilate, okay? I don't daydream when I invigilate.
so hey, 1.5 hours you're staring there. What are you doing? Of course, they're all daydreaming. All the invigilators are daydreaming, 100%. Okay. Anyway, what was I talking about? Oh yeah. So be brave and say, can I have extra pieces of paper? 2 extra pieces of paper. Right at the very beginning, when the invigilator comes around, okay, grab it, hold of it, and then now you have space to plan. So you must spend time planning and because my question paper no space. Oh, spend time planning, spend time jotting down. Okay, so make use of that paper. After all, you already paid money. You have to pay a couple of $100 to register for the GCE O-level exam, right? And so you already paid money, the paper is yours, just ask for it, make use of it. Okay, make good use of it. Okay, so you must plan because if you don't plan, you can't provide an overview. Okay, so you get stuck because you don't plan. So if you plan, then you provide an overview, then you won't get stuck. Correct? Does it make enough sense? Okay, so what you want to do is you want to separate your planning from your writing. So a lot of times, some students say, but I don't have enough time to plan. That's because you don't read enough. So we have provided you with many different model essays. You come for our classes, you get a model essay all the time. So then you see that, oh, this is how the sentences are structured. This is what should be happening in paragraph 2. Or by paragraph 5, this is what I should be writing about. So you need to read these model essays and then it becomes easier for you. Without the input, it's very difficult to have output. You understand? You need to have input. There is no other way around it. It's just like imagine that you are an AI. Imagine that you are an LLM and I'm training you to write good essays. How do you train the AI to write good essays? You feed it with good essays. If you feed the AI with good essays, the AI will say, oh, so this is how good essays are written, and then they can produce good essays. It's the same with you. Think of yourself as an artificial intelligence. So you need to have input, then you can have output. Okay, so look at your model essays. So your narration paragraph one, so you compress the setting, okay? So it's all compressed. So what you have here are reported speech. It's all reported speech. You don't have I this, I that. So it's all reported speech, okay? Compress, compress. And then after that, the climax and the effects also compress. So there is no long dialogue showing all the argument. Just compress it. That's all. Compress it. And then you go into the reflection. So reflection technique number one, again, we can use definition of pride. Okay, so this was about pride. And then hypothetical scenario. Had I done this, I might have learned this. So this particular type of sentence structure, I bet that you have never used it before, but I can also bet that you have come across it before. You came across this kind of sentences before for your synthesis and transformation. In your synthesis and transformation, you have come across these types of sentence structures. And these are the advanced sentence structures, which if you use, then your language scores go up. Some of you say, how to make my language score go up? It's through using sentence structures. It's not just using advanced vocabulary. If you use advanced vocabulary and you use it wrongly, you are shooting yourself in the foot. You want to study the model essays for the sentence structures. Okay. So like this. These days, I do this. And so what do we have here? Oh, this is your dramatic short sentence. We have come across this before in primary school writing, right? So when a friend goes quiet, I do not assume rejection. I ask. Great. Impact. And say, it sounds small, but it's a deliberate reversal. So these are the types of sentence structures which you must now start to deploy. You must now start to use. You must now start to practice using. And say, but I don't know how to begin. It's very simple. What you do is on your piece of paper, you just copy. Take out a piece of paper, look at this thing on your screen, and then you copy. And when you copy it out, it's going through your head. It's the same with how to study science. You don't just study science, you copy. So you force that information go through your eyes to be processed, and then it comes out through your head, and then you read. And as you read, you are listening. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Reinforcement. Copy, read, learn. Copy, read, learn. And then you find that the memory sticks. If you just stare at it, it doesn't stick. It bounces off. And then your mind starts to wander and daydream. You understand? So effective studying techniques, copy. You don't have to copy the entire sentence structure. Don't have to copy the entire model essay. You don't need to do that. You can, but you don't need to do that. You only need to copy certain sentence structures. And then after you've done it once or twice, then you change it. So you change the topic, change the situation, but use the same sentence structure. Okay? And then the conclusion is not, this lesson will forever be etched in my memory. The conclusion is, this is the situation, but I no longer carry the regret as a weight. I carry it as a reminder. Some lessons only stick when they cost you something you cannot fully recover. Bang. Okay, so what is a conclusion? One of you said just now, you don't know how to end. I tell you, the conclusion is the most important part. The conclusion is the part where you drive home that message. Without a conclusion, if you're just telling a long story and then at the end you give me a cliche conclusion, right? Like honesty is the best policy. I remember this for the rest of my life. That's as good as saying, I'm wasting your time. Because your essay, when you tell the story, this is the story. Okay, I can I can live with that. You're telling me that this is your story. Okay, good. So this was the story. This is what happened. Okay, so this was the story. My best friend did this. I did that. I went to Pulau Ubin. Okay. And so what do you learn from it? At the end, you say, what I learned from it? Uh, I learned that fire is hot. And I'll remember this for the rest of my life. Fire is hot. Honesty is the best policy. So you give me these cliches. You might as well not tell me anything, meaning that you didn't actually learn anything from it. So if you didn't learn anything from it, then your conclusion becomes trite. It becomes unimportant. It becomes a waste of time. So why did I bother to pay attention to your story? Why did anybody bother to listen to you telling the story? Isn't it? So when you tell the story tomorrow when you're in school during recess, you tell the story, and then you say, "Oh, this is what happened during PE just now." You tell the story, and then the person, your friend says, "Wow, yeah, huh?" And then, of course, you will say, "I was so angry with John because he passed the ball deliberately and hit my head. He did it on purpose. I will never trust him again." Okay, this is the part that is the juicy part. This is the part which is the best part. This is the part which you must not leave out. This is the part which must be real and you must put it down there and you mean what you say. And this is the part which makes your personal recount glow because wow, fantastic. You learn something. This is a fantastic essay. Do you understand? So it's not the story, it's what you learn, your reflections upon that situation. What have you discovered about yourself? What have you discovered about others? What have you discovered about the way people behave? What have you discovered about the nature of friendship? What have you discovered about the problems when adults keep secrets? What have you discovered about the importance of perseverance? What have you discovered? Write it down. So write it down, and that is your conclusion, and then you score. So that's how you write a conclusion. So the conclusion is the juiciest part, is the best part. And if you waste it by giving a cliche, then you've wasted everybody's time. You understand? So the conclusion is the time where you say, this is the moral of the story. And if you give a cliche as a moral of the story, and wasted. The examiner just go, "Oh, okay, that's all. You won't fail. I just help you pass. That's all." But if you really want to score, then your conclusion must be about something which comes from you, something which you have discovered about the nature of life. Put it down. I discovered that sometimes telling the truth can be very cruel and hurtful. Full stop. Very good. Like that. You see? Okay. Like that. Okay, so that's the personal recount. How much time do I have? 45 more minutes. Okay. I won't be going through every single line of every single page. Okay. This webinar is designed as both. There's a section where we explain through this video, and then you need to read through. And as I said, you need to copy and you need to work at it by yourself. And when you work at it by yourself, there is something that will click. Okay. So there's another example here, an achievement that surprised me. So again, a very typical kind of thing. And then of course you use various techniques. Okay, so I want to skip right now all the way to somewhere way behind all the appendix. Okay, so let's look at the appendix. Not here. Okay, yeah. Appendix A. Look at Appendix A. So how to write the reflective paragraph? So there are techniques. It is not just you must write, but there are techniques. So I give you these techniques. I tell you what these techniques are. Okay. So these are the techniques. So you use the specific technique. If you don't learn the technique, you can't use the technique. You must study and understand, and then you use the technique. And then if you understand it, then you have the sentence structure. So the sentence structure is the thing which you must memorize. You must memorize, you must practice writing out by yourself. So for example, humility is the quality of being able to admit that others can be better than you. A quality or a lesson I truly grasped one day when I failed my maths exam. Like that. So you want to do that. You want to see the X and the Y and Z, and then you plug in the particular theme or the topic, but you must have this sentence structure in your head. Okay, so this is the thing which you need to study. So you must spend time studying this. There's no way around it. I can show it to you. And for me, it's very easy. I just say, okay, go and study this. But for you to study this, it might take you 1 hour or 2 hours, depending on how hardworking you are. Okay. I just need to talk about it for 5 minutes, 3 minutes. But you have to work through this yourself. Go through it technique by technique, and then sentence structure by sentence structure. Write it out for yourself. Just apply different topics: pride, humility, kindness, compassion, resilience, perseverance, integrity, creativity, or whatever. Okay, just plug it in. Okay, and then you write the sentence structure out. So remember the sentence structure. And each of these can be a paragraph by itself, or you can also combine them. So there are 8 techniques here. You don't need to write 8 reflective paragraphs. You can write 2 or 3 reflective paragraphs. This is what you use to write your conclusion. This is what you use to write your introduction. This is what you use to write your reflection. So half of your personal recount can be prepared beforehand. Half of your essay can be prepared before you even step into the exam hall. You already have this inside your head, and you say, whatever the topic is, I plug it in. 50% is already done. The introduction, the conclusion, the reflective paragraphs. And then what do you write? Oh, you write the story. The story is a simple thing. Somebody cheating in an exam. I'm not going to write 6 paragraphs. I just write 2 or 3 paragraphs about somebody cheating in an exam. That's fine, because the story isn't really that important. You just need to be able to demonstrate good sentence structures, vocabulary, grammar, punctuation, and then the examiner say, well done. And he give you marks. Okay, so this is the thing which you need to study. I also need to show you this one. The most common essay questions which students encounter, and then the problems which they face. Okay, so what happens is that, for example, question 1, describe an occasion when you had to be brave, right? Okay, so although it says describe, it's not a descriptive essay. It's actually asking you to tell a story. So you tell the story, and then you had to be brave. And so don't think about it as a brave act, and then you're writing your primary school compo. You understand? That's where you misread it. It's not wrong. You won't fail, but you are not getting, you're not making the most use of this. You're not using the opportunity given to you to show off all these sentence structures which you have already learned and memorized. You understand? So there are 2 possibilities. The simple one is physical bravery, standing up to a bully. Okay, we've done it in primary school. How about moral bravery, social bravery? Telling a teacher something which a friend asks you to keep secret. Oh, that's bravery. So there's a brave act. Okay. So this section here, I've given you lots and lots of examples. Okay. Very common essay questions, and all the ones in red are all the places where students end up going off topic, or they're not maximizing the opportunities given by the question. Okay, so this will go read through this before your exam. This actually helps. Oh, okay, so if this comes out, I already have some idea about how to write. You understand? Okay, so this is what this section is all about. So those of you who are watching this on YouTube, you don't have access to this because you didn't sign up. So sign up for sign up for our webinars, and then we'll give you a link, and then you can download the PDF document. We give these PDF documents away for free because we want you to improve. Okay, so sign up or join our Telegram channel, and then you get to use this. You get to have this. You can print out for yourself, or you can just work on it on your uh, personal learning device, your PLD. Okay, we're done with the. We've done with that. Okay, so let's look at the next type of essay. The next type of essay that we are dealing with tonight is the descriptive essay. So the descriptive essay, you think about it in terms of what did I observe and how can I make the reader see it too? So that's the descriptive essay. What did you observe? And then now you have to say, okay, so this is what I observed, and now I need to use words to paint the picture. You're using words to paint the picture, to create the image in the minds of the reader. And it could be smell, it could be touch, it could be taste. So you want to make use of the five senses. But first, you need to imagine it. Because if you don't imagine it, then you can't describe it. So this particular type of essay question is not easy. It's more difficult than the narrative or the personal recount, right? I'm sure you agree. So there are some people who can do this well. If you have a strong inner life, if you have a strong imagination, and so this is the boy who's always daydreaming, then half smiling in class. And suddenly when he writes well because he's thinking about something and he's imagining something very vividly. And it's not League of Legends, and it's not Brawl Stars, whatever. Okay, but he is thinking and he's imagining, and then when he writes or when you write, you can describe it, and then the reader gets sucked into your world. Okay, so that's what you will aim to do when you come across this kind of essays. So you want to have a dominant impression. What is the one dominant impression, main impression that you want to create? What's the main impression? So you zoom in, you start with one striking detail, and then you pull out to show, okay, so the overall situation is like this. So for example, this is the weak version. It's not wrong. It's not a failure, but it's weak. So my grandfather was a nice man. He was always kind to everyone. He liked to cook. Okay, this simple sentence structure. He was a good man. I'm missing a lot. Okay, so very simple. Pass, barely pass. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's not very impressive. So dominant detail. My grandfather's hands were the first thing you notice. Dominant detail. What's the dominant detail? They were brown and cracked from 40 years of washing woks in the hawker store. Okay, now that's the dominant detail. And then based on that, we can zoom out. Then we can talk about his life. We can talk about his character. We can talk about how stubborn he is. We can talk about his clients. We can talk about how his last day at work. We can talk about all kinds of things. But you want to create that one tiny detail first, because if I can see the tiny detail, I can extrapolate. I can make deductions based on that tiny detail. Okay. So that's how you would do your descriptive writing. So descriptive writing is not easy because it's one kind of writing that you can do. And for some of you, maybe you're taking art, or maybe that's what really appeals to you, then go ahead and practice doing this. There's nothing wrong with this. It's just that most people won't be choosing to write the descriptive essay. Okay. It's possible to do very well, but it's not so easy. So what you want to do is to have your dominant impression, and then you link that to character, and then you start to zoom back out. Okay. So for example, let's say if you're describing a place, because sometimes they ask you describe an object that has great significance to you. My pen, uh, my handphone, my laptop. So, or a place or a person. Okay, then you say the East Coast Park has not changed. So the same row of barbecue pits, the same coconut tree. So the details that are here. So it has all of these things. So you find that the way that this is written, it is more poetic in nature. And so there's slightly more leeway when it comes to the sentence structures, because these are poetic devices. It's as if it's an impressionistic brush stroke. I'm just doing a little bit. I'm not writing the entire thing. I'm just drawing that little bit there, a dash of yellow here, a little bit of green there, and then you zoom out, and then in your imagination, you see a field of flowers. You see the East Coast Park. You understand? So these are some of the techniques which writers can use. I'm not saying that you have to write like that, but these are some of the things which you can do. Okay. For example, you can also have this section here, something like this. The cleaning aunties. And then one particular cleaning auntie, Auntie Rosea. Okay. And then you describe her routine, you describe all the things that she does. And you say, huh, writing about the cleaning auntie in your school can help you to pass your O levels. Yeah, because it's your writing, it's your demonstration of the English language, your sentence structures, your vocabulary. You understand? You don't need to write spectacular stories. You don't have spectacular stories. You don't need spectacular stories. You don't need drama with about going on stage and then your knees were turning wobbly like jelly, and then you saw Miss Tan waving to you, and then suddenly you remember what to do. And you don't need that kind of don't need that at all. All you need to do is to answer the question, and this question is asking you describe a person. Okay, so we can describe a person, what that person does, how that person behaves, how do they do their job. It's not just what do they do, but how do they do it, and what does it reveal about their character? What does it make you admire about them? So she eats alone in 15 minutes. Why? Oh, because she doesn't want to be late for work. Oh, so that description of her behavior is a revelation of her character. So this is not easy, right? Agree? So this is not easy. It's possible, but it's not easy. So the almost good piece of good writing looks something like this. Okay, so he's friendly, he keeps this. So maybe you end up writing something like this. He does this, he does that. But the problem is that in between here, there is a big gap. I can't actually see the link between what he does and then this overall general statement where you say that he is a great man and an inspiration. I can't see it. So good writing will actually show this. Good writing will actually show this. Okay. So these are some exercises that you can do. But right now I want to deal with the expository essay. Okay, so the expository essay, this is just one expository essay type. Okay, this is just one expository essay type. We'll be covering the other expository essay types as well as in the argumentative essay in the following webinar. Okay, so what do we do for an expository essay? In the expository essay, what you do is you expose your knowledge. You expose your knowledge. You open up your mind and you let the reader know what you know. You say, this is what I understand. Let me explain to you. That's the expository essay. And sometimes you end up looking or sounding like a mad person. Don't sound like a mad person because the most important thing that you need to do when you write an expository essay is that you need to be very organized. Because if you're not organized, you end up looking like this guy here, big cuckoo already. You understand? You don't want to have all your ideas all over the place like this. It's very good that you understand something, but you must explain it step by step. You explain it in an organized fashion so that it's easy for the reader to understand. So the job which you have when you're writing an expository essay is that you must look at it from the reader's point of view. It's not about you. A lot of the times when we write and we are struggling to write, correct? We are stuck in our heads and then we are thinking, okay, what do I write? But your expository essay is about helping your reader to understand, to see what you know. So for a successful expository essay, you actually need to jump into the head of your reader. Say, okay, so if this is your reader, then you need to think about how he will perceive things when he reads those words. Does he get confused? Okay, then I need to edit. I need to change it. Does he get upset because you repeat the same idea? Then you must get rid of repetition. Correct? Is it? Why is it that you have this idea here and then after that in paragraph 5 you are repeating the same idea again? I tell you why that happens. It happened because you didn't plan. If you don't plan and you're just writing down the ideas as they pop into your head, then there will be repetition. So the model essays that you get where everything looks perfect. There's paragraph 1, paragraph 2, paragraph 3, paragraph 4. And then you say, I can never write like that. And you are correct in a way because nobody actually writes in this way where everything is perfect and it's paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4 and it's a model, everything is already there for you. It doesn't actually work like that. In reality, you spend time planning, drawing mind maps, writing notes. Okay, you spend time doing that, and that takes about 10 minutes. of planning, because you want to get all the planning and the rearranging, you want to get all that done first. And then after that, you spend your 40 minutes choosing the correct sentences, the correct words to express those ideas. So you're no longer going to change the point halfway through. No, all that is sorted out beforehand. So you want to separate the planning from the writing. When you're doing your writing, you just want to think about what's the best way of explaining this idea. Should you use compare and contrast? Should you describe the situation? Should you give a definition? Should you talk about cause and effect? You understand? So that's when you are halfway through your writing, that's not the time when you say, oh, I've run out of ideas. I don't know what to say next. And then now I'm stuck at paragraph 3 and I don't know how to continue. You cannot afford to do that. I have students who do that because they say, oh, these ideas seem to be very exciting. And then halfway through, they realize they don't know enough. If you don't know enough, you will expose that you don't know enough. Because the expository essay is about what you understand. If you don't understand it, you cannot write about it, which is why most of your subjects, geography, history, and biology, you have to write expository essays. Expository essays because they expect you to sit down and study. And then during exam, you say, okay, tell me what you know about the reasons why Malacca was a port in Malaysia, blah, blah, blah. Okay, tell me what were the reasons for Nazi Germany's blah, blah, rise in the da, da, da. Okay, so what were the reasons? So if you don't have the knowledge, you cannot write the essay. So the most important thing when you tell yourself that I want to write this expository essay is that you must plan. And then when you plan, halfway through at 5 minutes, you discover actually I don't know as much as I thought I did. I don't actually have enough content. Then don't write the expository essay. Then you write your personal recount. You understand? That saves you from getting stuck at paragraph 3, then just repeating yourself and in colloquial words, throwing smoke. Throw smoke, throw smoke, throw smoke, write a lot of rubbish and then make it very long and hopefully the examiner will be happy. It doesn't work like that for the Cambridge exams. It's not about length. There are some school teachers where they say, okay, if you give me 5 pages, I give you more marks. If you give me 3 pages, I give you fewer marks. That's because they don't read your essays. So those are bad teachers, bad markers. Okay, so the reality is that the Cambridge examiners will read everything that you write and they take your writing seriously. And so halfway through, they discover that you have run out of things to say and they're just filling it up with examples and examples and examples. And it's not very effective writing. You won't fail, but you're not going to get a top band. So if you're aiming for the top band, you must plan. And once you plan, you have enough ideas, then you spend the 40 minutes writing, explaining what you understand in an organized way, not in a disorganized way like this, okay? So show me what you know. There are 5 main types of expository essays. How to do this, the cause and effect, the compare and contrast, the definition, and the classification. But we'll just deal with compare and contrast for tonight. Okay. So your compare and contrast, what you want to do is you want to be very clear about what is compare and contrast. Compare and contrast is not advantages and disadvantages. Compare and contrast is not pros and cons. It's not that at all. Compare and contrast is that you examine X and Y side by side. So for example, if you were to compare and contrast laptops versus tablets, okay, then you are looking at these two things side by side. And you say that you are looking at these two things side by side. What do you actually mean? What that actually means is that you need to have 3 columns. If you have a laptop and a tablet, right? So what you're doing is you actually have 3 columns. Because what you're looking at, you're going to compare price. You're going to compare weight. And weight is linked to convenience, so heavy. And then it's going to be linked to uh, ability to input information. So typing is much faster than doing this on the tablet, right? So your input, okay, so these are the things. So this will be paragraph 1, this is paragraph 2, this is paragraph 3, this is paragraph 4. Do you understand? So when you do a compare and contrast, you always make sure that you have a 3-column table. And then the middle column, that is the core of each paragraph. So that's it. That's compare and contrast. So make sure that you don't have, oh, laptops have these advantages. Tablets have these advantages. Laptops have these disadvantages. Tablets have this. Then it's very difficult to, because it's repetitive. The ideas are all over the place. You want to say, okay, let's talk about the cost. Let's talk about their weight. Let's talk about their the ability to, or the suitability for typing or doing research. You understand? So studying in how about compare primary school and secondary school education systems. I said, oh, are you able to do it? Yes, because you've gone through primary school, you're in the middle of secondary school, so you have enough information. So if you were to compare primary school and secondary school, what would be the middle column? Okay, can you tell me? Can you type into the chat? Primary school and secondary school. What would be here? And what would be here? Not advantages and disadvantages, but what would be the core of your first paragraph? What would be the core of your second paragraph? The level of stress. Very good. That's number 1. What else? Stress level. Okay. Workload. Very good. That's number 2. What else? Because it's not the same, right? Stress and work level are not. If you link them, you can talk about cause and effect. So workload leading to stress levels. Adventure. Difference in adventure. Difference in the types of outdoor learning activities. Okay. School hours. Very good. Difficulty level. Very good. The CCAs, the variety of CCAs. Very good. Okay. So I can see that now you know. So each of these things which you name, it's actually 1 paragraph. Primary schools are like this, secondary schools are like this. Primary school hours are much shorter than secondary school hours. And then you describe the time is filled up with what? Okay, meetings and CCAs, planning for projects, rehearsals for National Day, okay, etc., 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 right? So this is the difference between advantages and disadvantages. You're not talking about whether primary school is more advantageous or secondary school is more advantageous. It's not like that. Oh, that doesn't make sense. It's actually about comparing and contrasting. primary school versus secondary school. What you didn't mention was the approach to teaching. So, for example, the primary school teachers are more, uh, shall we say, the primary school teachers handhold you. Okay, so they tell you to do things step by step, and then they will read out the points for you slowly. And then if you didn't manage to catch it, they will repeat what they said. And then the secondary school teachers are going, hey, no, this is an important idea. Okay, next important idea. And then they speed off. And then, huh, what was that? What was that? Go back and read by yourself because you're supposed to be more independent. Then you say, so that is one of the reasons why I feel stressed because I have to catch up. They're just really stretching me. So you need to use words for that, right? So while, similarly means it's the same, however means it's opposite, like means it's the same, unlike is opposite, both means it's the same, etc., etc. So you need to use these types of words. You have come across these words before, I'm sure, but I don't think you have used most of them. I'm sure that you have used however, and I'm sure that you have used although. But I don't think you have used many of the other words. Because when I look at my students' writing, I don't see the other words popping up. I only see however and I see although. I don't see likewise. I don't see in the same way. I don't see equally. So all of these words are ideas because this word like likewise, it's a judgment, it's an evaluation, or equally, that's a judgment, that's an evaluation. Equally important, equally tiring, equally stressful. So you need to learn to use these words. Then we can talk about the level of thinking being stretched. And so you say, oh, now I'm able to discuss more complex ideas, more complex ideas. So the words enable you to show your knowledge of the intricacy of the idea. Because what's happening in a secondary school is you are being asked to write about something, for example, causes for World War II, and it is not straightforward. When you study, you say, okay, it's straightforward. Say first reason, second reason, third reason, fourth reason, right? So when you write it out, it looks like this. It's very simple. But in reality, inside your head, the idea looks like this. This was like this, and then after that, Japan, and then after that, colonial powers, and then there's this idea here, and then overall, there's this idea. And it's a very complicated situation. And so you need to have the words that enable you to discuss and to make these complicated ideas simple to understand. So your job is to transform the complex situation into a very easy to understand format. So your planning must be clear. The reality is that it's very complicated, but your explanation cannot be like that. Your explanation must be very simple to understand. It's not that your explanation is simple. Your explanation must be simple to understand because you have the correct sentence structures, because you're using the correct words in order to express your ideas. Okay. So, uh, for example, something like this. A student who studies for understanding, comma, in contrast, comma, reads those 3 pages, and then there's a description. After that, you have, wow, the first student can plug numbers and get the right answer, comma. The second student can explain what the formula represents and why it matters. So this is painting a picture using simple words. The words are simple. There are no difficult words here. But the sentence structure is dealing with a complex idea. You're putting these 2 different students and the 2 different ways of approaching studying. And so that's what you need to learn how to do if you're going to use compare, if you're going to write a compare and contrast essay. What did I say at the beginning of this essay, of this webinar? I said the personal recount essay is the easiest to write. And now you know why. It is because it's not easy to write like this. It's not easy to write like this. Not everyone can write like this. You don't need to write like this. You can choose to write the personal recount essay. You understand? You can choose. You have a choice. But if you want to write an essay, then every sentence must be carefully constructed. If you're going to write an expository, if you're going to write an argumentative essay, every sentence must be controlled. Every sentence must mean exactly what you want it to mean. You cannot let the ideas run away with you. You cannot leave space for misunderstanding when you construct the sentence. If you construct the sentence and you don't know, you don't do careful tracking, and your ideas are ambiguous in the very first line, then the entire paragraph actually fails. Do you understand? Because the paragraph here is a thing in itself. It is actually one unit. If a sentence fails, the entire thing fails. It's an engine. A paragraph is actually a living thing, an engine. After you read this paragraph, you say, oh, I understand cause and effect. I can see the comparison. It's one thing by itself. And then after that, you're going to talk about a second thing. It's a second paragraph. And then the third paragraph. So for this thing to work properly, each sentence must have the exact words to say exactly what you mean. You must put down exactly what you understand. So how to do this? You do this by looking at the examples which you have. So when you look at your social studies textbook, when you look at your history textbook, when you look at your biology textbook, you observe how the writers explain their ideas, how they build up their ideas sentence by sentence, and then how that paragraph actually makes sense as a unit of idea. It's one unit. And then once you have that, then you say, okay, now I can write a paragraph. I know how to write a paragraph, because I have many students who actually don't know how to write a paragraph. When I ask them, how long should a paragraph be? They say 7 lines. Or they say 5 lines. How long should a paragraph be? They say, it's a trick question, isn't it? Because a paragraph is not defined by the number of lines, but 99% of you think that a paragraph is something like this, and then after any longer, I must start a new paragraph. But it's not true. It's not true. The paragraph is a unit of organization, because it's an idea that is actually floating inside here. I think this is what happens when you read a paragraph, okay? when you read a paragraph like this, you see the first line, the second line, third line, and then you come to the end of the paragraph, that thing is inside your head and it's running. The paragraph, the ideas are alive in your head and it's running there. And you're supposed to hold it in your head. Then you read the next paragraph, and then now you have a second idea that's running, that's alive inside your head. And that's why your essay at a secondary school level is just about maybe 4 ideas. Okay, 4 ideas. So you have 4 ideas in your head at the same time. And then you write your conclusion, because I'm holding these 4 ideas in my head. My conclusion, my judgment of these 4 things at once is this. This is what I believe. This is how things work out. These are the implications. That's your conclusion. So that is what essay writing actually is when you're talking about expository essay. It's not about memorizing and then dumping information onto the piece of paper to get marks. It's actually about being able to capture your thoughts and being able to use words to reconstruct your thoughts so that somebody else who reads your essay can have the same idea as you. They'll have exactly the same idea as what's going through your head. Okay? And that's why essay writing for expository and argumentative requires you to have a good control of the language. It requires you to have vocabulary which is precise. It requires you to have all the basics, grammar, punctuation, all of these things must already be settled. We cannot be uh, distracted. We cannot be open to ambiguity because of wrong punctuation or wrong grammar. You cannot afford to have all those things. All those things must be done. Then you talk about organizing ideas very carefully and explaining the ideas very carefully. Okay, so it's not impossible, but it requires quite a large amount of work. Okay, so it requires quite a large amount of work. So tonight, what have we covered? We have talked about the reflective recount, where you talk about, I experienced this. This is easy. This is what I experienced. I tell you what I think. Very easy. Descriptive, I observed this, and now I'm trying to recreate that for you. Oh, not so easy, but possible. Compare and contrast expository. I understand this, and I want to let you know this is what happened, and I explained to you. This is what you need to do for your history, for your social studies, for biology, all those areas where you have content knowledge, and geography where you must show what you know. That's your expository essay writing. So your thinking must be organized. Your thinking must be organized. It cannot be haphazard. It's very different. It's not poetic. There's hardly any space for metaphors. You can for dramatic impact, but it's not driven by that. Okay, so we have lots of examples given here. So for example, if you're going to write a descriptive essays, Sec 1, Sec 2, this is your primary school, good, bad. Don't do this anymore, okay? Generous, dependable, steady. Sec 3, Sec 4, principled, dignified, unwavering, scrupulous. Okay, so this is something which you need to sit down and you need to study. If you don't study, nothing happens. So you need to spend time. Studying means spending time. That's all. That's all that studying means. It means that you sit down and then you spend time reading through the words one at a time, and then you put a tick after you have read each word. Oh, okay. I know these words. Okay. So compare and contrast signal words. Okay, down here. the other four expository essay types which we'll cover next week. Okay, these four plus argumentative writing. Okay, so I know some of you having your WAs now. Do your best, and then we'll see you next week. Okay, bye-bye.